The episode opens with Cassie diving headfirst into internet fame. After Brandon Fontaine tags her online, her subscriber count explodes overnight, gaining thousands of followers within a single day. Maddy wastes no time turning that attention into money, pushing Cassie into non-stop content creation. Every morning becomes another exhausting cycle of recording personalized videos, fetish requests, and provocative live streams designed to keep fans paying. Rue explains that Maddy has basically transformed Cassie into a full-time business. While Cassie performs in front of the camera, Maddy handles everything behind the scenes. She packages strange fan orders, negotiates ridiculous requests for extra cash, and keeps reminding Cassie that controversy only makes people more obsessed with her. To Cassie, all of it feels worth it because she believes this lifestyle is her ticket to becoming rich and famous. She's also secretly sending large amounts of money to Nate, who still hasn't escaped the dangerous mess surrounding him. Even though Nate spends most of his time sitting at home while Cassie earns the money, he constantly reassures her that what she's doing is smart. At the same time, Cassie begins appearing on edgy online podcasts where she repeats inflammatory opinions about relationships and masculinity. Her comments generate outrage everywhere online, but the backlash only increases her popularity. Maddy points out that every angry comment is making them richer. Despite acting confident, Maddy warns Cassie not to let emotions control her decisions. She tells her Nate is already becoming dependent on her success and could eventually drain everything she's built. But Cassie ignores the warning because she's fully consumed by the fantasy of becoming untouchable. That fantasy turns into a surreal dream sequence where Cassie imagines herself as a gigantic celebrity towering over Los Angeles. She stomps through the city while helicopters circle overhead, unable to stop her. The scene reflects how powerful and unstoppable she now feels. By the end of the vision, Cassie stands overlooking the burning city, convinced the entire world is finally hers. Meanwhile, the situation at Alamo's ranch grows darker. After the robbery from the previous episode, paranoia spreads through the crew. Big Eddie remains hospitalized after getting shot, and Alamo becomes increasingly violent toward everyone around him. Even small mistakes trigger explosive reactions, showing how unstable he's becoming. Rue feels trapped in the middle of all of it. She's secretly working with the DEA while trying to survive among dangerous criminals who are slowly beginning to suspect her. When Alamo asks to speak with her privately, the atmosphere immediately becomes terrifying. While waiting for him, Rue notices Bishop preparing plastic sheets, ropes, and power tools like he's getting ready for an execution. Bishop ominously tells Rue that ever since she arrived, nothing but disaster has followed. Later, Rue sits down with Alamo, who questions her about Laurie's operation and asks whether she remembers the layout of Laurie's property. Rue tries to stay calm while explaining what she knows, but it's obvious Alamo no longer fully trusts her. The tension becomes even more disturbing when the episode strongly implies that Big Eddie has been murdered and fed to pigs after being blamed for the robbery. Rue's problems continue when she meets with DEA agents under a bridge in a sketchy part of town. They pressure her to get Laurie or someone from her crew to say something incriminating over the phone. Rue struggles at first, but eventually Wayne slips up during a casual conversation, accidentally referring to her as their drug mule. The agents immediately realize they finally have something useful. Back in Hollywood, Cassie's growing fame creates conflict between her and Maddy. Brandon Fontaine tries convincing Cassie to leave Maddy behind and join his influencer group instead. He promises bigger opportunities and a professional team that can make her even more famous. Cassie starts considering the offer and visits Maddy to tell her she might move on. But Maddy quickly manipulates the situation. Pretending she's about to cancel a major audition opportunity, she pressures Cassie into staying loyal. Desperate not to lose her shot at stardom, Cassie signs Maddy's contract without even reading it carefully. The audition turns out to be for a television series called LA Nights. Cassie enters the studio acting like a stereotypical glamorous blonde, charming the cameras and leaning fully into the image everyone expects from her. Then, unexpectedly, she performs a dramatic Shakespeare monologue with real emotion and intensity. The producers are shocked that she actually has talent beneath the social media persona. Lexi watches the audition unfold with mixed emotions. Even though she helped create the opportunity, she hates seeing Cassie use her connections so recklessly. But the producers are impressed enough to cast Cassie immediately. The moment Cassie hears she got the role, she completely loses herself in excitement, screaming about becoming famous and imagining paparazzi following her everywhere. At the same time, the episode checks in on Jules and Rue's complicated relationship. The two spend time together during the day, reminiscing about high school and discussing the emotional distance that still exists between them. Jules becomes frustrated that Rue never clearly expresses what she wants. She pushes Rue to finally be honest about her feelings, but the emotional tension between them remains unresolved. Later that night, Jules ends up reconnecting with Ellis instead. When Ellis realizes Rue has been around the apartment, he becomes furious, worried about risking his family life and exposing himself to unnecessary danger. Jules is left heartbroken and humiliated by the confrontation. Nate's storyline also takes another brutal turn. After receiving more money from Cassie, he briefly enjoys a rare moment of peace at home, drinking and listening to music while pretending his life is finally stabilizing. But the calm doesn't last. One of Naz's men suddenly breaks into the house and violently attacks him. The scene becomes horrifyingly chaotic as Nate is beaten and mutilated again while the quiet suburban neighborhood outside remains completely unaware. Back at the Silver Slipper, Magic accuses Rue of setting her up after drugs are discovered in her locker. She tells Alamo that Rue acted suspiciously during the robbery and insists she can't be trusted. Her accusations give Alamo even more reason to believe Rue may be working against him. Later, Rue meets Maddy at a diner, where Maddy explains she's removed all emotion from her business decisions. According to her, success only comes when people stop caring about morality and focus entirely on winning. Rue listens carefully, but it's obvious she's becoming overwhelmed by how ruthless everyone around her has become. Their conversation takes an uncomfortable turn when Alamo unexpectedly arrives and joins them. He speaks politely to Maddy while quietly intimidating Rue, making it clear he suspects something. Before leaving, he orders Rue to go with Bishop and G for a ride, refusing to explain where they're headed. Once Rue gets into the car, they immediately take her phone away. The silence during the drive makes everything feel even more threatening. Meanwhile, Maddy continues bonding with Alamo over business ideas, pitching plans to expand into managing online adult content creators. Alamo becomes interested immediately, offering access to girls working in his clubs. Together, the two start discussing people like products, showing just how morally detached they've become. At the ranch, Rue's worst fears finally come true. Bishop, G, and Kid force her to dig a deep hole in the ground before burying her inside it up to her neck. Rue panics, realizing they may actually intend to kill her. Hours later, as the sun rises, Alamo appears on horseback carrying a brutal weapon while calmly talking about trust and betrayal. Rue screams and begs for her life as Alamo charges toward her on the horse. Just before the impact, the screen suddenly cuts to black, leaving her fate unknown.